We are back yet again for Fantasy Football in 5. Our last episode was our best fantasy teams and divisions, and this episode will be our personal fantasy team that we drafted.
So if you didn't see last week's video, hit the big red button below. Alright, so we had our draft a couple of weeks ago here on vacation in North Carolina. We had the 9th overall pick in the draft, which was kind of, we either wanted 3 or 4 or at the end. So we got the 9th pick, and at our first pick, Adrian Peterson fell to us, so we had to take him.
And that was, obviously we've talked about how Adrian Peterson was by far above and beyond any of the other running backs, and we were so happy to get him at number 9, and that was a great value pick for us.
And then at the turn, the beginning of round 2, we picked up our first receiver in Allen Robinson. Now we were kind of debating over him or Brandon Marshall, but we went with Youth this time.
Yeah, I really like the Allen Robinson's upside just because I think he had a great season last year, and I think he can have very similar numbers this year.
So we grabbed 2 straight running backs from rounds 3 and 4, just because we didn't really like what receivers were available.
That and the running back position is very thin this year.
Right, so we were pretty fortunate. We picked up Doug Martin and Devonta Freeman. So if you can afford to have Devonta Freeman in your flex position, I mean, come on, that's incredible.
So essentially we got 3 top 12 running backs, which is incredible considering how thin the position is.
And so rounds 5 and 6, we went with Jarvis Landry in round 5 for our wide receiver 2.
And then in round 6 we went tight end with Coby Fleener. Now, we already talked up Coby Fleener throughout the offseason and how we really believe in him with Drew Brees there throwing the ball. And Jarvis Landry, the past 3 years, he's gotten 100-plus catches every year. So
he's in company with Antonio Brown and Julio Jones.
Exactly.
And to round out our starters, for that matter, we have Derek Carr as our quarterback. We grabbed him from round 10.
I think it was like round 10 or 11 that we grabbed him. And that was a great pick just because he's not going to put up real flashy numbers, but he'll be very consistent, and I think he could put up a couple games here and there with 4 touchdowns.
And then our kickers and defenses, we stay with Minnesota. We have Blair Walsh as our kicker, and the Minnesota Vikings defense.
Starting out here, we want to talk about our bench now. In rounds 7, 8, and 9, we went receiver heavy there because obviously receiver has a lot of depth there, and there were just a lot of big name receivers that fell to us. Starting out, we had Jeremy Maclin in round 7, absolutely
huge steal.
Great value.
Huge steal.
And then in round 8, we had Michael Crabtree, which we really like him this year, and we think that he'll have a really good veteran presence out there in Oakland.
It's nice to combine him with Derek Carr.
And then round 9, we had Marvin Jones. Now we think that he's going to have a pretty good year out there in Detroit, mainly because he's now their #1 receiver.
Yeah, so Stafford's favorite target.
Yeah, and I think he'll have a good year.
And the reason we went 3 receivers right in a row is because we didn't like any of the running backs that were available, and more importantly, we had 3 great running backs already. And our wide receiver depth is kind of shaky. 2 position with Jarvis Landry, so that's why we went those 3 receivers in a row.
And so next we had Derek Carr, in round 10, which we already talked about him. And then in round 11, we picked our defense. We picked them really early just because we wanted to make sure we got a good defense.
And we were on the fringe because Minnesota defense was the top ranked defense, and there was an auto pick, so we were like, crap.
So
but we got them.
Yeah, we ended up with Minnesota defense. We've talked about how we really like them, and they're great for points per game. And then after Minnesota defense in round 12, we picked up Derrick Henry as a bench running back. We like him mainly in goal line situations.
Yeah.
And we expect him to have obviously split carries with Marco Murray.
Yeah, he's our only bench running back, just simply because we have those 3 top 12 backs.
And then after Derrick Henry in round 13, we went Laquan Treadwell at wide receiver to get extra depth there. I really love Laquan Treadwell. I've talked about him a lot this season, and there's really not much more than he's missing.
On all of these wide receivers are great trade bait. We have thrown a couple of ideas around, maybe trading Landry and another receiver for maybe like a Jordy Nelson guy or a Alshon Jeffrey or Mike Evans, something like that, just to really solidify that wide receiver 2 spot.
And then to finish out our draft in round 14, we picked up our kicker, I think it was, with Blair Walsh, and we just picked him up because our initial kicker got suspended.
Chris freaking Josh Brown.
Yeah, and then the kicker who we were gonna pick up next would be Chris Boswell, and
He was taken really early though.
yeah, he was taken really early, which we thought was kind of odd.
Yeah.
And
A lot of Steelers fans in the draft. But
yeah, so we were left with Blair Walsh, which that's not bad. And then to round out the draft, we had Alex Smith in our last pick. Obviously, we talked about how consistent he is at quarterback. He's really good. I had him last year on my team, and he started last 6 games for me, and he was absolutely perfect. You know, he'd score touchdowns on the ground and through the air.
Alright, that was Fantasy Football in 5. Thank you for watching. We did realize fantasy is in 5 minutes, so because honestly, who would want to watch a 30-minute video on this topic?
Amen.
So this is our draft and our team. We really hope we did well this season. Obviously, the goal is to make the playoffs and win the championship.
Playoffs.
Exactly. Tell us what you think about our team in the comments, and we'll see you next week.